Yeah, so I'm Colfax or Sean in real life. I'm a classically trained industrial designer. I've been working at a design firm in Denver for about 5, 6 years now. A consulting firm. We do a lot of work for the outdoor industry, brands that we think do cool shit, kind of like Osprey, Burton, Decine, things of the like. Brands that get people outside, get people active, sport style stuff. And I've been on Farcaster for probably about a year now. Probably seen me on the feed, higher posting, shit posting in general, giving bad takes,
Uh-huh.
um, things of the like.
Nice. And were you always out in Denver, or you moved there after school or for work or something?
Yeah, I've actually been in Denver or the Denver metro area for my whole life. I was born just north of here, about 20 minutes north, little town called Westminster. Grew up there, and then I moved down into Denver proper for college. What was that, like 10, 11 years ago at this point, and been here ever since. Me and the lady have a little place down in South Broadway. Actually hoping to, well, there's two options. We were planning on buying something down here, and then just out of the blue, like a month ago, she goes, "Should we move to New York?" And
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Because she's always been a country girl. She's always wanted to buy a ranch, have chickens, goats, you name it. And then I think we've been close enough to the city for long enough that all of a sudden she's just like, "Let's go to New York, babe."
Interesting. That would be, it's either a big life switch or a get out the last bit of city with like a grand finale and then move on to the ranch after New York.
Yeah, I think maybe that's kind of the plan because we're of that age. I'm 30. She's 28, so it's like we don't have kids. It's kind of the time if you want to do something new, go to the big city, New York maxing, like Six always says. Um, and we're considering it. So I'm actually gonna bring her out with me to FarCon, and she's a tattoo artist, so she can do what's called a guest spot at a couple of shops out there while I'm, messing around with Farcaster folks, and we can just get the lay of the land, see what's up.
She can also maybe hook some of the attendees up with like some higher tattoos or
Yo,
degen tattoos, whatever people desire.
that would be interesting. I don't know if she would. She might be down for that. She thinks a lot of that stuff is just redacted, but she might find it funny enough to get down with it.
Gadoopy tattoos. I
Yeah.
feel like the higher arrow is kind of a layup for her. It might not be enough of a challenge. She might need something like a doopy or something a little more advanced.
Yeah, the arrow is definitely a layup. She gave me a higher tattoo. I don't know if you've seen it. I got the higher hat tattooed on me by her, and
Oh
she
wow.
was very reluctant to do so, and she didn't want me to post it because she was like, "This is easily the simplest and worst tattoo that I've ever done, and I don't want people to know that I did it." It's
That's
amazing.
funny. I didn't realize. I do recall now that you mention it. I've seen it at some point, but I had no idea that she was behind it. And it's funny. Was that an obvious? I know like you did the higher hats. Maybe you can actually talk a little bit. I don't know. I got a higher hat. You did a higher hat NFT collection, right?
That's right.
In addition to like physical higher hats.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got an NFT, at least one. I don't have the physical, but what was the deal with the hats? The physical came first, right?
Um, well, I'll back it up. And by the way, let me know. I know you're anon, but hit me up. I'll just send you one. But yeah, the the meme came first. Actually, I ripped off some of my profile pictures, Ramilio, and you know, it's funny when I joined Farcaster, I didn't have a profile picture that I really identified with, and it was kind of an experimental phase because I didn't know anybody on Farcaster besides Turvo really at the start there. So I was experimenting a bit and, you know, trying to get engagement in my own ways. And I changed my profile picture to that Remilio. I don't even own it. You know, I just right clicked, saved that bitch, and I threw it on, and you know, people started to interact with me more, which is noteworthy. I think that there's a lesson in there somewhere, based on community and vibe. But yeah, and then I found Hire. Just I was seeing these posts. I think the one that caught my attention was kind of that off white quotations with the arrows, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, that's interesting. You know, as a designer, I've been in search for a community that is a little bit more aesthetic forward and less token talk. So I found Hire through that, and I was like, all right, there's got to be designers here, and sure as shit there were. And so I just started riffing on my PFP, just taking her into Photoshop and Illustrator, and that's how the Hire hat was created. And there was I forget exactly. Oh, Petra, I think Petra Voice. I could be getting that wrong, but they created a collection of these cute little like bubbly, not quite anime girls. I don't know if you remember seeing
Oh
those.
yeah, yeah. I remember what you're talking about. I think I don't know if it was Petra Voice or Petra, but that sounds like generally right. And the things were called Babes, right?
Yes, Babes. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So that Babes collection dropped, and I really
Good
loved it. And
vibes.
I
Those were
bought a
good
lot of
vibes.
those. Sorry,
Those were good vibes.
dude. Yeah, I know. Great art too. Um, and so I just started throwing that hat onto those Babes, just for fun. And then Kagusha reached out to me. She was like, "Well, yo, will you put this hat on mine and a couple others?" And Sheik wanted one, and then yeah, it kind of just started to spread like that. I was making them for people, and then
And these were already higher hats, or they were just hats at that point?
they were the Remilio hat, but I had made it green and I had wrote Hire on it. I took off
Okay.
whatever shitty text, shitty questionable text was written on the hat beforehand, and you know I made it green and threw Hire on it. So I was throwing the actual Hire hat on other people's PFPs.
And
Um,
it's pretty consistent with, besides those, like the color and the text change, it's pretty consistent with the Remilio hat. Because I wasn't familiar with the Remilio hat, so like I just know it is the higher hat. But is it really sticks pretty close to what it was, just with the
oh
color and the text?
yeah, no, it is the exact same hat. It's the form is the exact same. It's the color and the text that change. That's it. It's the classic 3% rule. I feel like,
Is that a
which
trait? Do you know? Sorry to interrupt, but is that a trait that, like, the hat is a trait for Remilios? I don't really like. I'm beyond my waters with this stuff. Like, I know the Miladies, I know the Remilios are somehow related. That's basically the extent of my knowledge, and I know what they look like. But is the hat something that like 5% of them have, or like most of them have, and it's
you know
all the
what?
hat's always the same, or there's different hats?
That's a good question. I'm also not the most versed in that world. I do know that it is a trait. I don't know if most of them have it. I don't know if a few of them have it. I do know it's a trait though. And so to your point, like it is the exact same hat, and um I just changed it slightly. Like I said, I just changed it slightly, and that was a little bit I think that was a little bit of why it kind of caught on because it was familiar. You know, I didn't
Right.
create like a totally new hat. It was recognizable already, you know, in a way. Um, like like we always talked about in the higher groups is just Virgil, and that 3% rule is real.
What's the 3% rule? I'm not familiar.
It's basically like the idea that you can create something brand new by changing something 3%.
Hmm.
Um, and 3% being good in a way that the object or item or piece of art is still recognizable and familiar, but you've changed it just enough to make it yours. It's a pretty profound thought. You know, a lot of Think Boys have written threads on it and things like that. And Virgil's just a downright genius. Rest in peace. But yeah, so I think changing it 3% was enough, and obviously everybody else did too. And so I was making those hats or making those profile pictures for people, and then I think one night Blank Space reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, there's this guy in the hire community that wants to make a tool for that hat," and this is Nishu, and I didn't know him at the time, and I didn't even know what making a tool was. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll get back to him in the morning, thanks." And next morning, he had already made the tool and allowing people to put that hat on their own profile picture. And I hopped on Farcaster, and just kind of literally everybody in the hire channel was sporting that hat. It was hilarious. And so a little bit of the serendipity there is, not only did that happen overnight, and I was kind of shocked. It was fun. It was exciting to see that, but I had also received that morning a sample of that green hat. I had ordered a couple blanks because I was considering, just printing a couple. I didn't think anybody cared. I wasn't going to sell any of them, but that morning I saw the hire channel blowing up with the hat, and I was literally holding it in my hand. It was just a kind of a moment that you can't write that shit.
Yeah, it's wild how things work sometimes. That happens. You're dealing with these hats for probably weeks, if not months, and then the same morning they take over the channel and you got a physical copy in your hands. And that was a physical with hire text, or just the plain green hat and you were going to do the hire part yourself?
It was just the plain green hat. I was planning to take it over to the print shop that morning too, which I did. It was just remarkable. Yeah.
So then you said, let's order some more of these, and you did the physical hats, and then later on was the mint.
Yeah, exactly. I think while I was producing those physical hats was when I released that one of one collection of kind of the higher proverbs on those hats. It took some time to actually release those physicals. I think I lagged a bit too hard. You know how fast everything moves on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And I'm to a fault, and admittedly kind of a snob sometimes. You can ask my fiance; she'll attest to that. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and so I wanted to do everything right as far as website and kind of payment user experience. I wanted it to be crypto. I wanted it to be crypto native. I wanted it to be
For the physical hats.
Yeah, correct, for the physical, which is difficult because there's nothing in place. You can't plug and play an API and accept hire as payment, and the integration of shipping aggregators, things of the like, custom ERC20, and minting an NFT upon purchase is, I don't think I've seen that done before, to be honest. So we had to build it all, and luckily I had a great dev with me, Utkarsh from FBI. He killed it, but it was a big lift. Under the hood, there's a lot going on there for such a simple website and for such a simple process. It really makes you feel like there's so much still to be done if crypto is actually to be used as payment. And I get to see that firsthand. But long story short is, I think trying to incorporate all of those things that I thought were necessary for a crypto product, a physical product sold to crypto communities. It took a while, and hype dies, hype definitely dies, but the homies still supported when I launched it, and we sold a bunch of them, and I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a cool story. Like, I know I've seen photos of the physical, a bunch of people rocking them on the PFPs. I've got my higher hat from the NFT collection. I think I got a higher athletics one. I think I just got one, but I can't, if there was others, I can't remember what they were, but I remember the higher athletics one. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, it was a sweet collection.
Yeah, thanks for minting, bro. Appreciate that.
Of course. So thanks for the full breakdown on the higher hats. Switching gears a little bit, I'm curious to learn more about your background in industrial design and how it's not immediately obvious to me how first of all, I don't exactly know like what industrial design is. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't know where you
Sure.
fit into that. And then also like how that translates to working with like companies like Burton, especially out in Denver. Like, I imagine there's some it's like mountain stuff, but I don't really know beyond that. So I'm curious to learn like what you are doing with majority of your time.
Yeah, a good question. I mean, industrial design the name is a bit misleading. I think a lot of times I'll tell people that, and they think I like design factories, like I'm a factory architect of sorts. But
Right.
no, it traditionally, it used to be synonymous with product design, but with the rise of the internet and apps of the like, product design has kind of been hijacked by developers or app designers, I'll say,
Right.
actually. So you can't say product design anymore because it's misleading. So really what we do is we just design physical products. It's physical goods. A lot of what I do, my firm's specialty is soft goods, cut and sew products. So we'll do a lot of bags, backpacks, luggage, carry systems like that, So working with a brand like Burton is they'll come to us, they make boards and bindings and things of the like, and they've made bags in the past, but they want to elevate. They kind of want to elevate their offerings. They come to us and say, "Hey, we want a kind of a pro level backcountry snowboarding pack," and
Right.
that's where we take over because we've done thousands and thousands of bag lines over the years, and before I was there, the company's been running for 25 years now. So they'll come to us and we'll do all the design work. We'll do depending on the breadth of the line. If they want 3 bags in the line, we'll show them 4 or 5 concepts for each bag, how they relate to each other. All of this is sketching, digital sketching is what we present to them, and then we'll move forward and develop it through vendors overseas, usually, almost exclusively overseas. And, we'll do that development with Vietnam, Indonesia, Cambodia, depending. And, we'll go through that process for the next year to year and a half until we take it to production.
So you guys, that when you're talking about working with Vietnam, Cambodia, whatever, that's to sort of get like an MVP physical product pre actually like manufacturing them in size?
Yeah, so we're working with Vietnam, we'll go to a factory, we fully plan to go to production with this factory, this vendor.
Okay. And you're just iterating for the first version until you can press repeat.
Yep, it's
and you guys oversee
process.
The production as well?
Sorry?
You guys oversee the full, like, the design is the part that you guys are like sort of advertising as your thing, but you're also sort of organizing and overseeing the actual production as well? Or
We
you're
don't
just handing it
oversee
off
the
to Burton at that
actual
point?
we don't oversee the actual production, but we'll oversee every sample round, make all the changes, make sure that we get to what some people would call a golden sample, which is the sample that you sign off on that then goes into production. So I'll sign off on this golden sample, and then we expect that sample quality in every single piece that's produced from then on out, whether they're ordering, I don't know, 2,000, 5,000 pieces in that initial order. But
And at
ideally,
that point, you guys are hands off and it's just direct between Burton and the
yep,
manufacturer?
yep. We stay out of
Got it.
all the business shit, all the quality control stuff, all the
Right.
shipping, you name it. We just we like to do the fun stuff, which is the design and the development process. And then once money gets involved, we head out.
Nice. That makes sense. So you're sort of transitioning the handoff all the way up until the golden sample. So a company like Burton, I'm just using that because that's the most familiar of the few that you named, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But they like, I don't know exactly, but they specialize. Probably their like top product is snowboards, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So a company like Burton, I never really thought of it, but they, I'm assuming all of their snowboard stuff, or at least like a lot of it, including the design, is in-house. But then their tangential products are where they'll go to you guys for bags and the like, or if they want to have custom whatever it is, water bottle or something, they might go to someone else or something like that. Is that generally like how these companies work, where their design and everything is in-house for their core products, but then they outsource for some of the more tangential?
You know what, Jake? It's a good question, and I don't want to blow up anybody's spot per se, but
They outsource the boards too.
you would be surprised. I won't speak to Burton specifically, but
Right.
you would be surprised how many brands are simply marketing agencies. Um, In-house design is few and far between.
Hmm.
I'll say
So
it
you
that way.
guys, would you also, do you have specialty products? Is bags sort of the 80/20 of it? And then obviously there's a bunch of different types of bags, but is that the 80/20 of what you guys design with? Not just exclusive to Burn at this point, but more broadly, or are there other categories that like sort of follow along the power law where you guys maybe are doing like 50% bags, 20% something else, and
Mm-hmm.
30% other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, bags have been the bread and butter for the company for the long term. That's definitely our area of expertise when we're comparing ourselves to other design firms. We are definitely the experts there, but we do other products and more we're doing other product hard goods in other industries like biking, overland. If you know what overland
Yeah.
is, kind of a trendy thing these days.
Overland
Um,
is just like an individual brand slash store, right?
Overland is, or overlanding is what they're calling it, which is basically get a Toyota Tacoma, strap a truck rack to the back, strap a shovel to it, some traction boards, gas cans, and then in theory you're going overland instead of just driving up to camp. You're driving up to trails, and roughing it this kind of crazy terrain up in the mountains, and then you're still
Huh.
camping, but you've got a rooftop tent strapped to the top of your truck. I don't know where you live, but in Colorado and other mountain areas, it's a very common thing. You'll see the Forerunners, the Tacomas, you know, the Lexuses that are lifted, that are all doing this thing. And so that said, we do a lot of work in that industry these days. We've done truck racks, We do bike racks. We've done protection gear, kind of the whole gambit. But it all stays, at least at this firm, it all stays in the same sector, which is kind of any brand that gets people outside. We're not doing like we're not doing sound bars for your TV.
Right. And is it outside, including summer stuff? Like, would you guys do like surf or not really?
We would. We absolutely would, but that hasn't really come up. I mean, I
Not in
think,
Denver.
yeah, because of our location, I think we get people on the line that are a little bit more land mammal. But
Is it very conducive to remote work, or are there pieces of what you do that really require the in-person bit? Like, it seems like something that would be, as companies become more accustomed to working with partners remotely, it seems like something that actually would be, here's like this 25-year-old company, I think you said, that has been doing really well in Denver area for a long time. And as people suddenly sort of become comfortable working with people more remotely, it seems like something that wouldn't really be like super geographically limited. Like if you needed to fly to, LA for a kickoff or something on a project with like a surf company, like you could do that. But beyond that, like, is most of it pretty remote doable without really any loss, or is there meaningful pieces that need to be in person?
I mean, well, I believe that you should do as much in person as you possibly can, and maybe that's just a little bit to my temperament. I'm a social guy, and I think connecting with coworkers, colleagues, and clients, is paramount. But most of our clients, if that's what you mean by remote, most of our clients are remote. We rarely have people in the office like we did before COVID. COVID kind of changed or flipped the script there a bit. People realized that we could get shit done over Zoom as opposed to, making a 3-day trip out of it. So yeah, most of our clients are remote, and the surf example is maybe just the fact that no surf brands have called us, or we haven't reached out to surf brands specifically. But to your point, like we do a lot of work in fish, saltwater. We've done fly, freshwater, but we're doing a lot of work in saltwater fishing right now out in North Carolina, South Carolina. So yeah, we'll fly out, which is awesome. I always love to do that, but no, I mean, clients are everywhere. Burton's out in Maine. They're calling us from Maine, and like I said, fishing out in South Carolina. We have clients out in Australia, funny enough, kind of anywhere. So yeah, it is special in that way, where we can take a brand that is halfway across the world doing something that we just heard of last night, and kind of go through that process with them, learn about it, and try and point them in the right direction.
About how many people is it?
4 total.
Only 4.
Small, and I love it. I've only ever worked for small businesses. I've never pushed towards the corporate world.
Are the guys running the show the founders still, or has it been passed down since when it was founded?
No, my boss is the founder. He's approaching, he's late 60s. Still a young buck though. He's the most fit in the office. He's a fucking genius. The best designer I've ever seen. He can sketch like you wouldn't believe it, and he is kind of the company. But that being said, he's got to retire at some point at the end of the day, and hopefully it lives on. But I'm kind of I'm poking at the idea of doing my own thing right now. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Like leaving and starting something similar, or starting something different?
Something different, man. I want to make my own product. As much as I love the job that I have now, there's a little bit of me that wants to feel more attached to what I design and what I put out into the world, because as a consultant, you do right by your client. Obviously you do what you do what you think is right as well, but at the end of the day, they're paying the bills, and you do what they ask, which is fine in a great relationship, but you miss out on a little bit of the brand ethos, the why,
Right.
that sort of thing. You're not part of that conversation, which I kind of wish I was. I'm a brand guy, always have been, and I think I want to build one for myself.
That's awesome. Would it be similar products, do you think? Obviously, it's different in that you wouldn't be on the consulting side. You would be doing the full brand yourself, but would you stick with a similar range of products, or are there other areas that are intriguing?
Yeah, I don't no, I wouldn't stick with the similar range of products. I definitely do things that I find a bit more interesting, a bit more experimental, maybe a little bit more internet native. Like think, Blank Space on Twitter, right? He's posting all those, like, I call it horny posting, all the cool like internet art, basically. So I'd like to approach a kind of more of a cultural fashion accessories brand that bridges the gap between like extremely interesting internet art and actual consumer product.
Right.
I think what the things that go viral on Twitter and Instagram are, especially in the fashion and accessories world, they're fucking awesome, but I don't think anybody truly wears that stuff for the most part. There's a small subsect of people that even have the confidence to wear the wacky art based sort of apparel.
Mm,
Which, fair enough. A lot of that stuff is gorgeous and unique and interesting, but it's not necessarily something you're going to go out to dinner in. Um, so something like that. I like the structure of Mischief, in the way that they just drop whatever the fuck they want. There's not necessarily a rhyme or reason to it, but they fall into that category for me where it's definitely over the top, and I don't know who's wearing big red boots, but um, I guess as an outline, it would probably be something between Carhartt Work in Progress and Mischief. That's kind of the angle I'm approaching right now.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm intrigued by. I'm actually not. I probably have seen Mischief, but like it does. When you say it, it doesn't. I don't know what to picture. It's not like something that I'm like super familiar with. But just the description of they make like sort of products that seem sort of random and they're not really interconnected. Like I feel like that's a cool. Like I just generally am, attracted to that approach. I think because it sort of implies that the brand is creating whatever they are sort of inspired to create or think that they can create best, or like just sort of
Yes.
their next best idea from a completely open consideration of any possible thing that they could create, rather than, because like
Right.
otherwise you don't go from creating sneakers to water bottles, like, one pair of sneakers to one pair of, or to one specific like water bottle. Like you don't,
Right.
or like a canteen or something, like that's not a natural progression. So it must be informed by something else. And that something else must
Right.
be either like sort of a confidence in that product or an inspiration to build that product or a personal affinity for that product or something like that. Or
Yes.
sort of like the connecting piece between them is something a lot less obvious than like a typical product category. And all of
Mm-hmm.
those things are just, I think, better. They might not be better from a business perspective. The best business move, like technically speaking or practically speaking, might be to, if you do really well, with a sneaker, you probably want to create, either another sneaker, like, maybe you make a running shoe, you probably want to create like more of like a lifestyle shoe or something. Like you want to go as not far away, you want to stay as close to the original thing that worked as possible, because that's what your audience is proven to like.
Right.
And so I like the other approach, because it's just like you're saying, screw it, we're just going to make what we want.
Yes.
And I like that aspect of it.
Dude, yeah, and I expected you to like that, actually. I've heard you talk about the idea of autonomy quite a lot, especially on this podcast. I think
It's funny.
specific.
Sorry, I'll just interject with one quick thing on that. It's like, it reminded me of this thing I casted the other day, which was like, the famous Paul Graham thing. It's like, make something people want. The other day, I casted make something you want to make. And it's like very different, but like, I love that.
Yes, agreed. And that is beautiful. And those two things can coexist. And the internet offers a unique, kind of a unique scenario where you have this instant feedback loop, where if you have even a small following, like I do, and you can just stress test ideas. You don't have to, and this, Jack Butcher is the king of this, building in public, and putting things out there and seeing where consensus lies. That's a unique parameter of the internet. And if you're a large brand, you're not doing that. Like you said, you're looking at numbers, you're looking at NPD data, you're looking at shit like that. You're seeing that my sneakers sold a lot. The last sneaker I dropped sold a shit ton. Okay, we're making another sneaker, exactly like you mentioned. And I think being an individual on the internet, you have so much breadth to allow yourself to explore and experiment in ways that you typically couldn't in the past, and especially can't if you're an organization with size. So I think the idea of kind of keeping it small and, to your point, making what you want, then, I think you can find success in that way. It's who told me this? Zach on Farcaster shared that essay with me about like building a network of 1,000 people. And it's such a simple but remarkable idea, in the way that you don't need to sell a product to all of America or globally. You need to sell a product to 1,000 interested individuals, and you're set. And I think if you're the creative type with somewhat of a clever mind, then you can explore so many different products that don't relate to each other. They're all interesting in their own right, but they still find their way into the hearts of that 1,000-person network. And just because this one's a lighter case and that one's a plant pot, like, doesn't matter. If it's beautiful, it resonates, it solves a problem, and people give a shit about it. It's a unique opportunity, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, like, if you look at some of the most successful companies out there, I think the norm is to do, not this, where, not to bash them, but like, I think it's probably, to me, the most impressive company in the world, but, or at least, I don't know, I haven't really thought about that question in a while. There might be some new contenders, but Amazon, like, started with books and then moved just like sequentially to the next tangential thing, and eventually, started selling everything. And you don't think of Amazon at all as like sort of a brand. It's right. It's everything's sort of commoditized, but it's, they're amazing at what they do. And then you contrast that with like an Apple, which went from like computers to like, computers, phones, like it's all electronics, but like to watches, and then in between that is like the iPod. Like they could have, most computer companies, I think, were more or less just computer companies, and they just stuck within that
Hmm.
narrow range. So even though, they're not going from something like electronic in the electronic space to something that's like, that Apple's not, their second product wasn't sneakers, but
Right.
like it's pretty, they definitely, went a little further. And basically that's how they, you end up actually just inventing new things like the iPod at the time. And then,
Yes.
uh, the iPhone and really the
Totally.
watch to some degree, AirPods, like all of these things, like they had existing categories, but they're really inventing. And the other one I thought of was just like Tesla, actually, where again, the things are kind of related, but they could have just siloed themselves to cars, and now they're building like human robots or whatever. Not human robots, but like, human
Yeah. Yeah.
physical like form looking robots. And that's not like an obvious thing for them to do. That's like, well, here's what we're great at, and we can build self-driving cars, but we can also build like humanoid robots. And I think that's just like a much more interesting approach. And like, I'm sure
Totally.
humanoid robots probably aren't the most surefire thing for Tesla to sell next. Like, I'm sure they could have come up with probably other things, although they have kind of flushed out the car market in a lot of ways.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like a bit of a leap. I mean, even the Cybertruck, like they didn't need to build the Cybertruck. They could have built something that was much more, familiar to people who own trucks. But that thing went from like a concept car to, I mean, it was announced and they said they were going to do it, but Elon says things all the time. He says we're going to
Hmm.
have self-driving fleets in
Yep.
2016. I think he promised it would be like next year, and we still don't really have them. So like you can't
Right.
always take it at face value with him, but sure enough, with the Cybertrucks, it went from like, here's what they look like to I started seeing them on the road all the time. Like, I don't know, it's a year ago or something, and it's just continued. And I personally love them. I think they're great. I mean, I've never
Yeah.
driven one or anything, but I think they're so cool.
I fuck with it too. I think I like it because it's interesting. As a designer, I hate saying that because it sounds snobby, but like in the office, what we talk about design all day long, and the
Yeah.
Cybertruck was top of mind for a long time. A long time. I still love it. Everybody else now in the office hates it.
Oh yeah.
But I love it on the principle of the fact that it's interesting. It's different. It's polarizing. I like a
I like it
polarizing
for.
product. I
I like.
think
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Go ahead.
think people are too vanilla because polarizing is not always good business, and it's not safe. Obviously, it's scary. And if there's one thing I have respect for Elon for, and there's many, but it's the fact that he's willing to do shit like that. He's willing to drop the weirdest looking truck ever and say "fuck you," we're doing it, and take the criticism on the nose and just roll because like, and that is the risk at scale like that. They're not a startup. They're one of the largest brands in the world, and they still chose to roll out a "fuck you" truck. And there's something badass about that, and whether or not you like it or whether or not it performs is kind of beside the point, in my opinion. It's more that company ethos. I think that's a bit inspiring when you have something so large as a corporation as that. You have every opportunity to become irrelevant by not taking chances and not doing anything interesting, and to see that push forward is just badass. So I love the truck for all of those reasons, and I'm not gonna lie, I do think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I hadn't really. I knew that I liked it. I hadn't really thought of explicitly why, but now just like it's actually very simple reasons. Like I like it because it's simple, it's different, it's big, It's futuristic.
Yep.
It's practically speaking, it's safe, which is to me like I consider the danger of cars more than most people. Knowing like I don't know if you know this, but like it's road traffic accidents are the leading cause of death for people between the ages of like 5 and 35 or something like that. It's just a very dangerous thing that's been extremely normalized. Like even during COVID, like peak COVID deaths were like roughly on par with car. Again, like don't quote me on all this stuff, but like I'm in the neighborhood of being correct that like car death, like road traffic accidents were going. I mean, COVID deaths like at their peak were going at like sort of a monthly pace or whatever, or at least an annual pace that was sort of on par with like road traffic accident fatalities, which was just crazy to me because it's like we're doing everything. You know, you hear California come out with like we're not, you know, people can't go to the beach until we have 0 cases for a week straight or something, and it's like a zero tolerance policy there. But then we've got road traffic accidents that we've just totally normalized, and not only are we not like seriously, you know, accelerating self-driving technology, which definitely has the potential to be a lot safer and reduce that like sort of accident rate and fatality rate, but we're actually like, you know, there's tons of interests against, like at least Elon is one of the leading sort of suppliers of, or, you know, innovators in that realm, like trying to make that go slower and like not pass legislation and whatnot. It's like, we need self-driving cars like as soon as possible. Like that's one of the most life-saving technologies that we can normalize as quickly as possible. And like
you're sacrilege, by the way. You're sacrilege for comparing COVID to car crash deaths. By the way, you're going down.
Yeah, no, I know I'm canceled now. And then the other one actually is child morbidity, I guess, where, you know, in the US, like this is a solved problem. In most of the developed world, it's a solved problem. Obviously, like young babies and kids, you know, do die from time to time, but it's extremely rare. But in developing countries, it's not at all solved. And like, so the fact that it's a huge number of, that's why I said like between 5 and whatever, like for a large portion of the world, a lot of babies die or young children die from problems that we've solved in the developed world. And so I'm like, you know, I'm sympathetic to nationalist approaches by countries as well as globalist approaches. And I think there's sort of a balance to be struck, and you know, depends on the issue and whatnot. But like one of the things that makes the most sense from my perspective to be more globalist about is like, let's take care of, you know, let's make giving birth like a safer process for countries around the world that don't have that aren't up to speed with countries that have already conquered that, and like get these, you know, whatever, I don't know the details of what all diseases or, you know, these babies or young kids are getting and whatnot, but like it's solved in a lot of places around the world. Like that should be solved globally quickly, because it's like, it's ridiculous. I remember looking at this during COVID, like I wrote a blog post about it at some point, but like if you consider the number of healthy, like the deaths were like, you know, more than COVID deaths again, but then if you consider the healthy life years that are lost, like these, you know, babies and young kids are losing like 70 or 80 years or whatever of like expected healthy life years. And as we know now, like most of the COVID deaths were people who were either had some pre-existing condition or were obese, or the most like correlated thing was just that they were old. And so like a lot of these COVID deaths, first of all, like a lot of them weren't even really COVID deaths. Most likely they were just, the person had COVID, but they also had like cancer or something. And, you know, so they died, and like they probably would have died in a year or two anyway, or whatever. And so like the number of healthy life years that would be saved by like globalizing the technology, you know, whatever it is that we have that's preventing the young kids from dying, it's like just would be so much more impactful per dollar than all the crap that we did for COVID, when it was pretty clearly like not even really like moving the needle on anything anymore. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. Make self-driving cars the norm, and get kids to make sure they make it through childhood.
God damn it, Jake! I'll vote for you. You have my vote.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it's like pretty uncontroversial stuff, but you'd be surprised. So, anyway, I know we've gone like way over on time, but I have one last, uh, topic or question.
I'm okay. Yeah,
On the
go off.
subject of uh, thinking about starting your own thing. Do you have in mind? Actually, I have two questions.
Please.
The one that I was going to say is, do you have in mind things that you would need to see or want to see happen that would give you the comfort or conviction or sort of be the thing that spurs you to actually go and do the thing and to, or maybe it's something you could do in parallel before you even have to leave your job. Maybe those things don't necessarily need to be batched together, but what would it take to, do you have an idea of like what it would take to start and or leave your current gig? And then, let's focus on that one. But
Yeah.
the other one sort of, I just to get it out on the table was, I'm curious if there's things obviously your day job has been, bags, bike racks and the like, but I'm curious if there are like sort of favorite designs of yours that you've done personally over time, even whether that was like, when you were being like sort of classically trained as you described, or, outside of work or whatever, if there's specific items that you've designed that are like your favorites of all time.
Sure, sure. I mean, yeah, good questions. I'll kick it off by saying that I told my boss last week that I'll be leaving. So I'm putting my feet to the fire.
At a
I'm giving
specific
him.
time or generally?
It's a moving conversation. But my replacement showed up yesterday, 2 days ago. So I'm training my replacement right now. So Jake, it's real. It's
Happening.
there's no backing out now. And
Nice.
that's how I need it to be. I work well under pressure, and sometimes I don't work unless there's pressure.
Right.
So it's all systems go. I think what would be the most helpful is if you sent Hire and Dick Butt to a billion. That would be beneficial. If I could sell the top once in a while, that would also be great. But for now, it's really just creating. I'm allowing myself a little bit of runway to be creative as opposed to I've talked to a few folks on this, smart people, um, and their advice is write a business plan. And I started to take that advice, and then I said, fuck this. This is a waste of time. Like, I don't have a business to plan for. I need I need to just keep being creative in the way that results in me producing something that I'm willing and excited to share and try to sell to people. The business plan is words, and I'm not the best with those, so I'm kind of playing to my strengths here. Um, but
Yeah, I
as
think
far
that
as
makes a lot of sense. Like it's a lot of people I think spend a lot of time writing and planning and looking like years in advance, when it's like, what happens when the first step doesn't work out as you wrote it down? You got to write a whole new plan. Like it doesn't really. I mean, there's
right,
something to be said for planning, obviously, but if you're forcing it to a template that's going to be like legible to an audience that's not even going to be helpful to you or whatever. Like if you're looking for investors, I get it, but like if not, you should just do what you feel is right, basically, one step at a time.
I think so. Yeah, thanks for that validation. That makes me feel slightly more sane. As well as the idea, like, so I plan to be doing work for hire, kind of along the same lines of what I've described. Whether or not everything that I end up producing is um, a hire collaboration is to be determined. But talking to folks about a business plan that revolves around the idea of hire and a meme coin and a headless brand is kind of like just punching yourself in the face. And I'm not the most eloquent, as you can tell, so I'm not the best guy that to be pitching, my business ideas to somebody who, owns a little bit of Bitcoin and that's all they know about crypto. So the business plan aspect just kind of fell apart for me because it's like, who am I trying to talk to with this business plan? And maybe it's supposed to just be for me. I don't know, but I think I'll be fine without it.
Yeah.
As far as things that I've created and designed, yeah, there's a few things that I think turned out quite beautiful. Like I've won a Red Dot award at my job, which is like some German snob thing that everybody wants, but it doesn't actually fucking mean anything. And I say that because that product line is not even close to something that I would consider my favorite that I've designed. A lot of that stuff came out of school.
Mm.
I designed a couple pens, as maybe silly as that sounds. I designed a couple pens back in college that I think I lucked into a beautiful form, interesting function, um, unique aesthetic. I did one. I called it the clothes pen. It's CNC'd billet aluminum, two halves paired together with the spring from a clothespin.
Mm.
You'd hang clothes out to dry. And that's how the pen functions. That's how you change the ink. I'll send you a photo of that. Actually, I'd be happy to share that with you. I think it turned out great. So that's maybe off the top of my head an answer that I'd give you. But um, I have a few things in the works right now that I think have the potential to contest with the short list of designs that I'm actually proud of. And hopefully, in the next couple months, they'll become a reality and they'll be on the market as a kickoff to whatever the fuck I'm about to do.
That's awesome. I always really wanted, like, I still to this day want like an amazing pen, and I think it's a very personal thing. So like, you can appreciate a pen, but it might not
Yep.
be for you. Like you can like it aesthetically. I'm a little greedy. I want one that would be like right up my alley aesthetically, but also functionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little hard to find. Like the only, I've had a bunch over the years, and I'm easy to please at like a 7 or 8 out of 10 level. Like I'm constantly signing the check at a restaurant, being like, "Oh, this is a nice pen."
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but but it's hard. I don't feel I've found my 9 out of 10 that I like is going to be my pen for life yet. I tried like one sort of like more expensive, high design pen probably 5 years ago. It was like Lamy, if you're familiar with that company.
Oh yeah.
And it was nice. But I don't know, it wasn't like super special. Like I think also cost does like I would be interested in getting one where it's so nice and like I reload the ink and it sort of
Mm-hmm.
ages nicely with not like super negative wear and tear.
Yep.
But until I find something like that, like I also like the disposability as a characteristic. Like if it's like a cheap disposable pen, but I really enjoy it, like that's perfectly good too. So
Yep. The big
I like
classic
pens.
Bic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's I forget what the categories all are, but I appreciate a bin. I respect, I mean, a Bic, I respect them, but I like sort of your classic, I forget, I don't even know the name of them. It's like, one of these ones with like a serial number for a name or whatever, but
Okay.
um, I look at them every day, but I don't know what it is, but um, I've got some pens that I like, and then I've got a bunch of those like sort of collected from restaurants and whatnot that I keep in the drawer and I'll whip out from time to time. But yeah, I'm still looking for that pen, so I'm curious to see
Something about a pen,
to
man.
see yours. Well, it's one of
Yeah.
the things that you use, so much, and to have. I mean, you can really appreciate the value of a great one if you use a bad one. It's like, man, this sucks.
Yes. Well,
So
and from the design side, I think it's a very I think it's a solid litmus test for can you design a pen,
yeah, sell me this pen.
you could design a sneaker. I feel like well, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth cuz I have mad respect for sneaker designers, but a lot of people can design an okay sneaker by just being extra.
Right.
I don't think you have those liberties with such simple objects. And that's where I think, and I don't necessarily love the term design restraint because I think it's kind of bullshit, but there is some sort of restraint that comes with such a simple object that you hold in your hand that you use forever.
Yeah.
There's maybe, I don't know, there's some sort of beauty to that. It gets me excited. I know that's super fucking nerdy, but it
No, that's
gets me
great.
going, man.
Yeah, I love it, and I'll share this idea I've had for a long time that we'll see. I don't know if it'll resonate with you or not. Feel free to pocket it for a rainy day. No pun intended. The pun will be, it's not evident yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
And so this idea I've had for a long time is just like simple everyday object that I think needs improvement. I think the status quo is unacceptable, and that is umbrellas.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Okay.
so you see a few different types of umbrellas, but I think the prerequisites for a quality umbrella, I think it should fit in your pocket, and I think it should fit in your pocket dry, and that's it. And that's it.
See?
And so, like, I think that's doable. I have like an idea of how it would work, but I'm not, I can't. Not that I
Sure.
can't, but I don't have like sort of. I haven't pursued it, and I probably won't.
Yeah.
But my general idea is like it needs to be made of some extremely thin material that won't
Hmm.
break with like raindrops or deteriorate over time, and then that material needs to sort of get rolled up in like the individual spokes of the umbrella,
Mm.
and then those spokes need to be able to sort of like collapse somehow, and like you end up with something that's like, I mean, it's funny. It comes back to the pen. It's the ideal would be that it goes down to like something that's like the size of a large pen or like a marker, and you
Yes.
just stick that in your pocket dry. Like I think
Yes.
that would be so sick. But you'd have to see how, like, it would be a challenge to see how small you can get it. But
That
I think
would
that
be a
would be awesome.
challenge.
And like, why would you own? I mean, as long as it's quality, like it would need the material of the spokes would need to be something that's like super like unbreakable. Like I don't know what that, like titanium or something that it
Sure.
can't, like it needs to be sturdy enough because the whole thing is going to be like this super light material and these super slim spokes. So I don't know, how feasible
Yeah.
this all is, but you see the ones, they do have those like crappy little umbrellas that I'm trying to think of what I can compare them to, the size that they break down to, but it's maybe like if you took like two decks of cards and put them like one above the other, so it's like as long as possible, and then you put like
Hmm.
another stack, like another two on top of those, so it's like twice as thick, like
Hmm.
that size of an umbrella, like they condense down to that side, and then sometimes you could put them in like a little dry case, so like that's possible, and like those are pretty shitty, like they're usually plastic instead of like metal as like the spokes. Like this would be an umbrella for life. So anyway, if you decide to venture into the umbrella product line, give me a
Jake,
call. I'm obsessed.
I I don't know if that's in the foreseeable future, but I'm happy to talk about that further. I love this sort of conversation. I think it's amazing. I think more people should be curious about physical products. I think that has kind of been abstracted away from the everyday person. It's when people say they should make this,
Right.
it's people don't know who they is. it's like the ether. Like the ether should create this amazing idea, you know, and people don't understand that it can be them. Like you can be they, and I think that's kind of sad. And I wish that would change. I really wish that would change. But yeah, I don't know. I love that. I love that you think this way. It gets me excited because that's my brain can't stop. And now I'm going to be thinking about umbrellas for the next week.
That was my goal. Umbrella Inception, and hopefully it bothers you enough that you
Yes.
think about it some more someday. But
Well, Jake,
maybe act
also
on it.
like, you know, I love the idea that you're trying to build like the Porsche of umbrellas.
Yeah.
I think that's intriguing, and it makes me think about. I've been thinking on this line for a minute now, which is, you know, like that's not feasible as a business model to sell the Porsche of umbrellas as, you know, kind of a startup brand. But with the structure that I'm considering and thinking about, you know, with the internet native consumers, internet native creators, I think there's an untapped area of people creating, like we talked about earlier, people creating a hyper elevated product for just a small consumer base.
Yeah.
Without the goal of I'm gonna start a $10 million company. Without that goal, you can create things that larger businesses will not create, like the Porsche of umbrellas. And I'm looking to explore that. And so, you know, cross your fingers. Maybe in 6 months, this umbrella, titanium umbrella, sees the world.
I hope so. So anyway, it's been an awesome conversation. I've got another idea for Windows, but I'll save that for another time, like physical Windows.
Anytime, Jake.
I'll
Anytime.
save that for another day. That's a good one too. So at
Sure.
least, you know, good in my my personal evaluation of my own ideas. So anyway, it's been an awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We'll do it again, hopefully. And
Yep.
until then, best of luck with, you know, transitioning on from your job to whatever's next. And it sounds like it's
Thank
an
you.
exciting chapter, whether it's in Denver or New York, for what you're going to be building and striking out on your own. So I admire it. I respect it. And I wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate you, Jake. I really appreciate you. This chat was awesome, and thanks for hitting me up. And like you said, I'm happy to chat anytime, and let's do this again for sure.
Awesome. Well, higher it is then.
Hi, brother.